Hi, my name's Emily, and this is my channel, The Red-Headed Ravenclaw. Today I'm doing a very late December and January wrap-up because in December I was moving and January happened and I didn't read very much, so I'm just gonna lump them together, and I think I'm talking about like 10 or so books, so bear with me because it might be a little long, but I'm going to try to do this as quick as possible. And the first book that I read in December was for my multicultural literature class that I was taking at the time. It is called The Impossibility of Us by Katy Upperman. I did not end up rating this book because I typically don't rate books for my class unless I already wanted to read them or they just like move me in such a way that I feel like I need to rate them. And this one follows Elise, who is moving to a small like coastal town where her sister-in-law and niece live after her brother was killed in Afghanistan, and she doesn't want to move because it's her senior year of high school and she wants to be with her friends, but she ends up moving, and then she meets Mattie, who is a boy from Afghanistan, and he's there in the States while his father is getting cancer treatment, and they kind of have a like a Romeo and Juliet situation almost, where his parents don't want him to be with her because of their culture, and her mom doesn't want her to be with him, and her sister-in-law doesn't want her to be with him because of this internalized racism that they have towards Afghanistan after her brother is killed in the war. And it's a really, really difficult story reading about all this racism and prejudice and all of that directed towards like people that the others don't even know. They won't give them a chance to prove themselves, like that they're not like the stereotypes that they are basing their racism off of. Mattie and Elise's romance is really cute. It was really nice to see them persevere and try to be with each other regardless of what their families thought. And I just didn't really feel moved to give it a rating, but it was a really interesting look into a couple from different areas of the world and how they were able to overcome these ideas that they had about each other and things like that. So I would recommend it for people who like romance that aren't afraid to read things about slightly difficult topics, and yeah, it was pretty good. The next thing I read in December was Giant Days Volume 2 by John Allison and Lisa Tremain, and there's other names, Max Sarin, let me see. The colors are by Whitney Kogar. I love this graphic novel series. This is only the second one I've read, obviously, but it's about these friends who are in university. It's like a UK graphic novel series, and it gets into all of their shenanigans and dating and exams and holidays, and they go to a school dance in this one. It's just a lot of fun. I love the art style. It's very like, let me see if I can find a good page. Like, it's just got some really good colors. It's got really good expressions on the faces of all of the people. And I just really like how much fun these are, and it makes me laugh whenever I read them. So I will definitely be continuing on with this series, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars because I didn't like it as much as the first one, but I think that I will really like them. I do really like them, but I think I'll like them as I continue reading, and hopefully it remains as one of my favorite graphic novel series. Next I read With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, which is about Imani, who is a teen mom, and she really loves cooking, And this year at her high school, she gets the opportunity to be in a culinary arts class, and they have the opportunity to go to Spain over spring break. And she is struggling with trying to figure out if she should go to college, if she should just start working in a restaurant. That way she can work up to becoming a chef and things like that. And also with taking care of her baby and with taking care of herself. And is a really interesting look into teen motherhood and the different experiences for, like, I think she is, I can't remember her ethnicity. I think she's like Black and Dominican, but I could be wrong on that. So look at reviews and make sure. But her relationship with her grandmother is wonderful. Her relationship with her friends and with her daughter is really great to read. And it's just like, I love stories that show you that you don't have to go to college after high school, that you can explore other options, and that there are other things that you can do if college is not right for you. And I loved that it talked about how Imani is just really trying to be independent and be able to provide for herself and for her daughter and not have to rely so much on her grandmother. And it was just really great. I really, really liked this story, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The next thing I read in December was Saga Volume 1 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is a sci-fi graphic novel series about 2 people who are from enemy planets, and they fall in love and have a child, and this is illegal, so the governments start coming after them and want to kill them. And this is a really interesting story. It's definitely adult. It has like a lot of sexual material, and it has some graphic content in here. I don't think this is necessarily for me, like this series. I'm not super into sci-fi, and I wasn't really invested in the story, but I can appreciate the artwork. It's stunning. I love, like, look at how beautiful this is. It's incredible. The colors and just like the interesting creatures. I don't know if you could see that because of the crease. Let me try to do that again. But yeah, it's really pretty. Interesting storylines for sure. The stakes are very, very high in this series, so I will continue, but I don't know how much I'll end up enjoying them. I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars, just because I was just kind of neutral about it. It wasn't like amazing, but it was like, okay, that's kind of a cool concept. The next thing I read in December was Rebel Angels by Libba Bray. This is the second book in the Gemma Doyle series, and it's about this girl named Gemma whose mother appears to have killed herself, but really it's this society that like is chasing after her because of some magic that she's able to wield. And Gemma goes to a boarding school to try to be able to become a proper lady, and she meets these other girls and makes friends with them, and they kind of discover some other magical / paranormal things that are happening. And this sequel is about like directly after what happens in the first book, and it goes over like the holiday season and them, like Gemma and her friends, traveling to London. And there are different bad guys in this book, and I just kind of felt like meh about it. The audiobook was really good, but I feel like the book was too long, and it got a little too magical for me, if that makes sense. Like, it was hard to believe some of the things that were happening, and not that, you know, like fantasy isn't not real, if that makes sense. But it just, like, it was hard to suspend my disbelief for some of these things that were happening in this book. And I will continue and finish the last book, which is even longer, and I haven't heard great things about the ending of the story, But it's a good audiobook to listen to. I really like the characters and all the voices that the narrator's able to do. And I'm interested to see how it wraps up. So I ended up giving that one 3 out of 5 stars. And the last thing that I read in December was Solitaire by Alice Oseman. I read Solitaire so that I could read Heartstopper because the brother of the main character in Solitaire is one of the main characters in Heartstopper. And Solitaire is about Tori, and she kind of hates everything and everybody, and these messages start showing up at school, and these pranks keep getting pulled, and all of these weird things keep happening, and they're like directed at Tori, like somebody who knows things about her is pulling these pranks and doing these things, and Tori kind of has to try to figure out who's doing it and why. I did not like this book. I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. Tori was having like an existential crisis the entire time of the book, and she was just, I got really tired of reading about the I hate everybody, I hate everything, like constant dread. It just made me feel gross and anxious, honestly, and I just didn't like reading about her, and I felt like it was kind of a problematic story in several parts, just with like how some topics were discussed. I can't even remember them off the top of my head right now because I kind of would just like put it out of my head as soon as I finished reading it. But like I said, I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. However, I can say that I'm reading Heartstopper through Webtoon and I'm loving it. It's amazing and adorable. And so I am glad that Solitaire did not hinder my experience with Heartstopper. Okay, the first book that I read in January was The Poison Garden by Sarah Singleton. This is about a boy named Thomas who inherits a magical box from his grandmother, and after he does this, he learns that the box has a garden within it, and each of the people with boxes, there are multiple people, each have a garden. There's a society of people with these boxes, and they are starting to get killed off by somebody. And so what ends up happening is Thomas takes the place of his grandmother in this society, and they're trying to figure out who is killing people, why, and what is going to happen with these gardens because of that. And it was really, really good at first. I really was intrigued. It was like spooky. It reminded me of Neil Gaiman's books and a little bit of like The Secret Garden, but like really dark and twisted. And then it just got super, super boring. Nothing was really happening. Like people kept dying, and I was just like, I don't even care. Like it doesn't matter to me. And even like when it wrapped up and it revealed who was killing people, I didn't care. I just wanted to be over with this book. It took me weeks to read this, and is very short. Like you can tell it's not that long at all. And I just was super done with it by the halfway point. I should have probably DNF'd it, but I ended up giving it 2 stars. And I wish that it would have stayed that dark tone and been really creepy, but it didn't, and it was whatever. The next book I read in January was The Wicked Deep by Shea Ernshaw, and sorry if this like reflective stuff is not or if it's like blinding, but this is about a town where 200 years in the past, 3 sisters were killed on assumption that they were witches. They were drowned in the ocean, and now every year each of the sisters comes back and possesses a girl in the town in order to kill a boy for revenge. And it follows the main character. Penny, who has lived at this in this town for a really long time, and her father disappeared because of the sisters, or so she assumes, and she just kind of accepts that the sisters are going to do this every year, and then she meets a boy, and she wants to protect him from being taken by one of these sisters, and so it goes through the events of trying to make it through what they call the swan season when the sisters come without him being taken by one of them. Is very interesting. I loved the witchy, like, I mean, it's not about witches, but since they believed that these sisters were witches, it kind of has like the witchy, like, lore and undertones throughout the book. I loved the twists and turns. I didn't really expect them to happen. And I really, really enjoyed the writing as well. I think that this is a great book for October. In the spooky times, even though this is set during summer, it just kind of feels dark and twisted. So I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Book Love by Debbie Tung. This is a cute graphic novel about what it's like to be somebody who loves books. And I read it for a challenge for something at work. And I just really liked the, like, that I could connect to so many of the things that it was talking about, like loving new book smells and putting off other work so that you can read, and buying books when you already have 1,000 books that you need to read. It was a super quick read, and I just really liked that somebody else has those experiences, and it just made my heart happy to read about other people who love books and see the shared experiences with that. So I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Teen Titans Raven by Garcia and Gabriel Picolo. This is the first in a series reimagining the origin stories of the Teen Titans, and I'm a huge Teen Titans fan. I even, unpopular opinion, I love Teen Titans Go because it's self-aware and it breaks the fourth wall a lot, and I just really love that in a cartoon. Anyways, this is about Raven's origin story, and it was okay. I didn't love it. It was pretty much just about like how Raven came into her powers, but honestly it didn't really even talk about that very much. The artwork was mostly in black and white, but then like Raven kind of had purple hues around her, and I'm hoping that after we get the initial introduction, like backstory on each of the Teen Titans, that we'll get like more into it with other volumes throughout. But I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It was just fine. I'm interested to see the other ones. The next one that comes out is about Beast Boy. And so, yeah, I think it will do good. Like, the series will be really interesting. So I'm interested to see where that's going to go. And the last book that I read in January was Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. This is the second book in the Arc of the Scythe series, and this follows directly after the events of the first book, Scythe, in a world where people have overcome death in natural form, so people don't die of illness or old age anymore. So there are scythes who glean people to control population. And Citra and Rowan were the main characters in the first book. They were apprentices and they were learning to become scythes. And in this book, Citra has become a scythe, and she is learning like about how she's impacting the scythedom and how her actions and choices are affecting the people around her. And I was honestly very disappointed by this book. I talked about it in my 5-star predictions wrap-up that I was expecting this to be 5 stars. It ended up only being 3 stars for me. I found that it was far too long. I didn't care about the plot twists that were happening, and the supposed to be shocking things were not shocking to me. And I didn't care about the new characters' plot lines at all. So yeah, this was really disappointing. I'm still gonna read The Toll and try to finish out the series, but I'm kind of hesitant now, and it may be a little while before I read it because I really didn't like this very much, and like I said, I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. So there you have it. Hopefully that was really fast. I talked about 10 or 11 books, I think, but I am hoping that now that I'm kind of getting settled into my job and that I'm done moving and all that stuff, I'll be able to read some more, because 5 books in a month is not very much for me. And so I'm missing reading. I've been in kind of a slumpy mood because Thunderhead and The Poison Garden took me so long to read. So anyways, that's all I've got for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!